Welcome, everyone. So glad that you're joining. We are a few minutes still until we actually kick off our webinar. So while you're waiting, I'm actually going to put on a quick video for you talking about our upcoming Nonprofit Innovation and Optimization Summit. It's an event that you will not want to miss, and I'm going to show you why here in just a moment. So stay tuned, sit tight, check out the video, and then we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes as everyone joins.
So I was really looking for a conference that was targeted to nonprofits and less about marketing.
It's a really well run summit. Like it's entertaining, it's extremely informative, and I think the thing I like most about the summit and about Next After in general is all their actionables.
So you really can't win on better. So you need to start winning on different. Be unique.
You guys, again, are here. You already have very authentic, amazing movements. Let more people come in by making a few key shifts.
You just have donors, repeat donors, first-time donors, and non-donors. You are about 20 segments shy of where you should be when it comes to cultivating your audience, when it comes to email, all of these different things.
Remember, measurement's goal is not to tell you what's working and what's not, it's to tell you what's coming next.
Like knowing that it'd be a fun learning experience was a big plus.
Grab everything and try to seek everything that's in it for us, or we can look at the things we have and say, how can I use this as an opportunity to help somebody else? We can choose to fall prey to our own self-interest, or we can choose generosity.
Why don't we talk to our donors like we would want to be spoken to? And I think that we're very friendly in our communications, but we need to make it more of a conversation. And I think that's going to change everything moving forward.
And what we found is, compared to just asking people to support a cause or giving them one option, giving them two options and allowing them to choose, increased donations by over 30% to a variety of different causes. Why? Because people love choice.
Everybody's been great. A lot of great questions, and a lot of people want to be the change in their organization, and I can't wait to be part of that movement.
Honestly, I'm a little overwhelmed. There's so much stuff to explore, so I'm just excited for it all.
And it has certainly not been a disappointment. It's been a great investment of time and effort for my team to come learn from them.
Well, thanks for watching that quick little video, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Nathan Hill from Next After. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for taking an hour of your time and sharing it with us. Hopefully, we don't waste a moment of it today. There's a lot of good stuff that we're going to get to, talking about value proposition and why would someone give to you. Specifically, we're going to dive into four key elements that you can use to more fully articulate what we call the value proposition and answer this core fundamental question for your donors. Now, some of you might already be in our brand new course called Why Should I Give to You? If that's true and you've watched through the first couple of sessions, you'll be really familiar with this. So just keep that in mind, but you might pick up something new along the way. But many of you have not jumped into that, and so this is kind of a great introductory webinar into how we typically think about the value proposition and how you can use it, not just to have, better messaging and like more creative copy, but how you can really resonate with your donors to help answer this fundamental question and get more people to say yes to giving, and yes at every single step along the donor journey. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll dive into things in just a moment. A couple housekeeping items. If you just watched that video, again, the Nonprofit Innovation and Optimization Summit is coming up sooner than you might think. September is going to roll around pretty fast, but September 20th through 23rd is the NEO Summit. And right now, through the end of the day tomorrow, you can save $600 on your tickets using the code SUPEREARLYBIRD. This event is awesome. It's the 7th annual NEO Summit. We've been putting this on every year for 7 years. And it is the time of year, other than Christmas, like I love Christmas. I look forward to that literally all year and kind of count the weeks and the months down to it. But outside of that, this is like the most look forward to week of my life every year, because it's so much fun to connect with you in person and with other fundraisers and marketers and communicators in our space, all working around this similar cause, trying to figure out how do we grow generosity together. So at this summit, it's 2 full days of speakers and sessions. There's a day before the summit where you've got some certification workshops that you can join. There's a post-summit workshop that you can join to figure out how do we stitch all these new ideas together and really get rolling. But you'll find 2 full days of speakers, 2 days of workshops, and then all along the way, there's tons of parties and networking opportunities that just make for a really creative and fun atmosphere for you to connect with other people that are doing similar work to you day in and day out. My friend John attended this past year. He posted this on LinkedIn afterwards, said, hey, after attending the summit, we raised 35% more from our website at the end of the year in 2021. That's pretty incredible. Now, we can't guarantee results, but I can guarantee you that you will come to NEO Summit and walk away with practical, tangible, data-driven, and tested ideas that you can put to work right away in your fundraising, marketing, and communication. And if you don't, we'll give you your money back. So you can rest assured you're going to walk away with some really great ideas. Again, you can save $600 today and tomorrow using the code SUPEREARLYBIRD. So make sure you check that out at niosummit.com and get your tickets. The most common question we ever get about really anything is, are you recording this? And the answer is always yes. So you will get a recording of the webinar today. We'll send out an email to you later this evening around 5 p.m. Central Time with a link to that recording, as well as to the slide deck and to other resources that we mentioned throughout. And then we're going to do our best today to have some time for some Q&A at the very end. So if you've got questions along the way, jump into the Q&A tool in your Zoom toolbar and drop your questions in there. That's the best place for us to actually see your questions come in and make sure that we can answer them at the end of the session. Excuse me. But if you have other ideas and thoughts and commentary, and I'm going to ask you to vote on a couple of things throughout, use the chat for everything else. So questions go in the Q&A, everything else goes in the chat. And so I'd like you to practice using the chat real quick. So if you wouldn't mind, hit the chat button in your Zoom toolbar, jump in there and let me know who you are, where in the world are you zooming in from, and what organization are you from? I see a couple people have already done so, which is awesome. It sounds like Riley got us kicked off. That's awesome. Valerie from Louisiana, welcome. We've got Freedom in Christ Prison Ministry present from Montana. We've got B.L. Bright in Wisconsin. Brett from Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. Nebraska Shakespeare, sounds like maybe theater work. That's awesome. Caitlin from Toronto. We've got some good Canadian representation in the house. We got T. Dean from Ottawa. Welcome. Jason in Atlanta. Megan Groves from Chicago at Uptown People's Law Center. Tons of folks on the webinar today. Thank you so much for being here. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right in and talk about the 4 keys that you can use to answer your donor's most fundamental question. Now, one thing I do want to kind of caveat before we dive in is that I cannot give you the ultimate perfect solution to coming up with the most effective copy to put on your donation page. I can't give you the magical secret that's going to transform into infinite growth for your fundraising. But what we can do today is give you some core tools that you can use to generate new ideas, evaluate the copy and the messaging you're using in your appeals and on your donation page and in direct mail and kind of wherever you're fundraising. We'll give you the tools to ask questions and figure out new ideas that you can test to see what actually works to grow giving. And we're going to start by looking at a couple of different experiments. So get ready on your keyboard, pull up that chat bar. Which one of these do you think is going to get a greater response? If you've been around to a few different Next After webinars, maybe you've seen some of these examples, but feel free to jump in with what you think. Let's look at a homepage ad experiment. When you come to the homepage of this organization, this was during the year-end season, here's what you would see in version A. It says you can change life with a gift. It's got some copy talking about the next step and what a gift can do. Give a gift that can meet a critical need. When a family receives a goat, education, water, or some other tangible solution, their lives are changed for years to come. Change a life by giving a gift. This is kind of a text-heavy, text-focused treatment of how you would position this giving call to action on the homepage. They also had another version that looked like this. They had sort of a branded identity for their year-end campaign called Change a Life. And so they're leaning into the branding and the design, trying to lean into some familiarity, because maybe you would see this in some other ad campaigns and things like that. It says, this Christmas, change a life, shop now, simpler call to action, not as much copy, but it leans more into the design and the branding. So let me know, which one do you think is going to lead to greater results? Megan says the one on the left. You can say left or version A, or right version B. Some people say left, a few folks saying left. I see Joy saying B. Sherry says B. We kind of have a split result. Noel Bud, hello. I see what's Noel voting. Version B on the right. We've got a split result here. Are you ready to see the winner? We get a drum roll going. Okay, you ready? We're not going to show the results for another minute. We're going to jump on to another example, but we're going to come back in about 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to look at the actual results. But I want you to see a few different examples here right up front of some intentionality behind some experimentation, because there's a common thread throughout all of these that we're going to come back to. Let's look at an email example. Here's version A, and I'll tell you right off the bat, this organization, CaringBridge, has tested into a lot of the core concepts and ideas that you see in this example. So from the design or lack thereof, they've tested into using this plain text style email, leaning into a human-centric approach to their fundraising and to their email marketing so they can build a real relationship. They want it to look like an email that's sent from a real human being that you can click reply to and have a conversation with. So a lot of these things have been tested into, and this is sort of the succinct copy approach. But version B, they tested something different. Same type of design treatments, same core concepts that they've tested into, but now they're taking a new approach with the copy. It's like double the length, so there's a whole lot more copy in version B, but it also uses more of a storytelling device to talk about someone's experience with CaringBridge. So 2 different approaches to the email appeal. So which one do you think is going to lead to greater results? The short copy, succinct email appeal, or version B, which is the more long form copy? I'll give you a moment to get your answers in. I see lots of folks saying B on the right, long form version. Maybe one of those was voting for the left. So jot your answers down. We're keeping score. We'll keep track of these, and then we'll come back in a moment and we'll look at the final result. But let's look at a donation page and then we'll move on here. Here's a donation page example. Illinois Policy Institute is the name of the organization. You see at the top, there's a headline that says Illinois' comeback story starts here. And you've got a little bit of copy. Together, we're writing the next chapter of Illinois' comeback story, and then it moves straight into the form. It makes it really, really easy to give, really easy to see on the page where to start the form. If you come with the intention of giving on this page, it's right there to get started. Version B is a little bit different. It uses a lot more copy. That copy, although it explains more of where your gift is going, it also pushes the form way down the page. Common best practice would say that you want those things above the fold if you want someone to take an action on it right away. But 2 different approaches, basically no copy, easy to see the form, long copy, form gets pushed way down. Which one do you think is going to lead to more donations? Peter has an interesting answer. It depends on how they got here. What a great little nuanced answer. We'll dive into that a little bit today. See several folks saying B, a couple people saying A. Kelly agrees with Peter. You know what? I probably agree with Peter too, but we got to look at the data and see what it says. So we're going to come back to these and look at the results in a minute or so. But what's really the difference between these 3 different experiments? And what's the common thread? Because these aren't just random ideas that these organizations just kind of threw out into the wild to see what would stick. There's intentionality behind each one. So what's the difference? What's the common thread? And how did we have any sort of idea of what the result might be when we ran the experiment? It all comes back to this idea of the donor funnel or the customer funnel or the sales funnel. Typically, as we think about marketing or fundraising or any form of sales, we in this space as marketers, communicators, fundraisers, think of things through the lens of a funnel, which makes sense. You're putting things in the top, and you're hoping something comes out the bottom. So in the case of email marketing, email fundraising, maybe you send an email to 10,000 people. And when we look at the performance of this email, we look at, okay, we sent it to 10,000 people. We got kind of an average industry average open rate of 24%, which means 2,400 people opened the email. Awesome, cool. We're moving people through the funnel. And from that, maybe 10% of those people actually click, which means 240 people are saying, yes, I want this. I'm going to click through. I'm going to come to the page and consider giving. And then if you get a 12.5% conversion rate, you're getting 30 donations. And we celebrate this. Like, this is awesome. We've got a clear funnel to move people from the start of a relationship in an email all the way through to clicking and giving and pulling out their credit card and actually making that transaction right on the page. And it's easy to look at these metrics through the lens of the funnel and celebrate and think this is great. But when we flip the metrics on their head, it tells a totally different story, because a 24% open rate is actually a 76% did not open rate. So these people who have opted in to receive communication from you, 3 out of the 4 of them are saying, either I don't trust you or I just don't care about the information that you're sending me. I'm not going to open. You move further down the funnel, a 90% or a 10% click to open rate is a 90% did not click rate. And keep in mind, these are people that have opened the email, and 90% of them would be saying, I don't care enough about what you sent me to even consider whatever it is you're asking for, if it's a donation or otherwise. That's a 90% did not click rate. And then you get to the donation page, and if you have a 12.5% conversion rate, that actually means you have an 87.5 did not donate rate, which means we've let the vast majority of people down. According to our friends at M&R, the average donation page converts at 21%. Saying the same thing, but in the inverse, same metric, just flipped upside down, the average donation page fails 79% of potential donors. When we flip these metrics on their head, they tell a totally different story, and it puts a ton of weight on my shoulders and your shoulders to do something about the problem. What's really being missed in the process with these people that have expressed interest in giving, where we're failing them when they come to a donation page? And how can we improve that process? Part of the problem comes from looking at things through the lens of the funnel, because it assumes, just like a regular funnel, that gravity is pulling people down through your funnel, ultimately leading them to say yes. This makes me think of making a cup of coffee. I'm kind of a coffee snob. So if you're making a cup of coffee through a V60, you're pouring water over the top, and the water is being pulled down through the grounds using gravity, and then out the bottom comes your nice little cup of coffee. But we don't have gravity working in our favor as fundraisers. It's really hard for someone to say yes at every single step. And so we often have to just flip the funnel on its head to get a more accurate picture of what people are doing. No one's falling into your funnel. It's a lot of work to climb to the top. And obviously, when you flip this on its head, it looks a bit more like a mountain than a funnel. So this is how we typically think about the donor journey, through the lens of the donor mountain. And on this mountain, at the very bottom, you've got this cute little donor getting ready to make their ascent up the mountain. They just took a nice little nap in their tent. They had their fire going. We were just camping a couple of days ago, so they're roasting their hot dogs or whatever, and they're getting ready, fueled up for their climb. This is your donor down there at the bottom. And your goal for them is to get them all the way to the top. At the very top of this mountain is the ultimate decision of giving, making a donation. And at every single step along the way, they have to say yes to continue to climb. But they're asking these questions. Should I open the email that you sent me? Yes or no? Should I click on the email that you sent me? Yes or no? Should I read the copy on the page that I've landed on after I've clicked the email? Yes or no? And if I say no at any one of these steps, well, I'm going to go back down the mountain. I'm done. I'm out. Step 4, should I actually donate? Yes or no? We have to get someone to say yes at every single step in order to lead them towards a donation. And again, I said the weight is really on your shoulders and mine as fundraisers to help improve these 70-some% donation failure rates, because we are the Sherpas. You as a fundraiser are the Sherpa. It's your job to help carry some of the weight and carry some of the burden for your would-be donors and show them the path to the top. You know all the different paths to the top, and you know the best way for that donor to get there. So it's your job, again, to carry some of the weight and help them get ultimately to saying yes to giving. And next after, if this is your first webinar with us, you're not so familiar with us, we really do one primary thing. We help nonprofits grow their digital fundraising. Now, we do that in a variety of ways, but there's really 3 key ways that we really approach this in a unique way. First, we're a research lab. So we conduct a lot of research trying to figure out both what are nonprofits doing to try to raise money. So we conduct different research studies to see, what do nonprofit donation pages look like today? What do mid-level giving programs look like today? What are organizations doing to try to generate more recurring donors? And then we take what we see and we can go test it through different organizations through our digital first agency, where we do full service digital fundraising work, but we're really focused on using data and experimentation to decode what works in giving. And then ultimately we can take these two different research pieces, both what are people doing and then what actually works, and go turn that into training, like this webinar and like various courses, because we want to equip you and as many nonprofits as we can with what we're learning works to grow generosity. And over time, as we've run at this point over 3,300 online fundraising experiments, the tactic, the tool that we have discovered that you have in your toolkit to help your donor get from the bottom of the mountain to the top, that's going to lead to the greatest impact over time, is what we would call the value proposition. And that's what we see at work in these first couple of examples. Let's look at these again. Here's the homepage ad example or experiment that we looked at. And we're going to look at the results. So remember back to what you voted on earlier. It was a fairly split result on most of these. The winner in this experiment was actually version A, 35% increase in donations by taking a little bit more time on the page to explain why someone should actually give. Not just leaning into branding and design, but actually using copy to explain, what is the gift actually going to do and why does it matter, and giving a clear call to action. In the email, succinct email versus long form email, here's the result. The long form led to a 42% increase in donations. We're going to dive into this email a little bit later on and look at some of the nuances, but really at the core of it is the value proposition. Version B had a stronger value proposition that led to more people trusting in what the organization said and saying yes to giving. And then the donation page, you ready for this one? Version B with the long form copy pushing the form down the page led to a 150% increase in donations. This is the total number of people actually giving on the page. Again, the value proposition is what's really being tested here. Spending more time articulating why someone should give led to this tremendous increase. So we're going to use this word a whole bunch today. I've already said it probably 15 times, but we need to really define it. What is a value proposition? You probably have come in today with some different presuppositions about what a value proposition is or what it means. I want to talk first about what's definitely not a value proposition, some common misconceptions. And one of the most common misconceptions is that a value proposition is your mission statement, and it's not. For example, I'm going to read the Sierra Club one out loud here, and then I'm curious what you think about it. Sierra Club says this: to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet, to practice and promote the responsible use of the Earth's ecosystems and resources, to educate and enlist humanity to protect and restore the quality of the natural and human environment, and to use all lawful means to carry out those objectives. That's a mouthful. And you can't just go copy and paste this onto a donation page or onto an ad or just articulate this in a YouTube video or whatever. You can't just go copy and paste this into all your different fundraising channels and expect this is going to deliver significant results. That's not to say it's a bad mission statement. A mission statement is critical. And in this case, this mission statement is going to drive where Sierra Club is going, the types of programs that they're going to work on and invest in. It's going to help drive them towards the future, make decisions about where Sierra Club is going and the problems that they're trying to solve. But it's not actually designed to be donor focused. It doesn't help the donor really dive deep in understanding why would I give and what's my gift going to do. So a value proposition is not your mission statement. It's also not an incentive. So here's a screenshot of our local PBS station donation page, KERA. I'm not here to beat up on KERA or PBS. We love them. But I just want to look at this page through the lens of the value proposition for a moment, because if you take a look, there's not a lot of copy talking about why someone should give. It's using a lot of incentives to get someone to give. An incentive can work to help someone give now rather than later, or maybe give it a higher amount, but it doesn't articulate the why. I come to a page like this and I might look at all these different incentives and see, like, say, the umbrella. What does it cost me to get an umbrella? $20 a month? Well, I can go get an umbrella for way cheaper than that. If my motivation is just to get an umbrella, I can go to like Target and the little $3 section up front and find an umbrella there. That's much cheaper than committing to a $20 recurring gift. So an incentive is not a reason to give in and of itself. It doesn't answer the why question. It's not a value proposition. We would define the value proposition as this. It's the answer to this question. If I am your ideal donor, why should I give to you rather than to some other organization or even at all? I'm going to read that one more time, because what I want you to do is actually take about 60 seconds here, either pull out a pen or a pencil, pull up a note on your screen. I want you to take a shot at answering this question in just a couple of sentences. So I'll give you about 60 seconds to do so. And as you do that, I'm going to read the question one more time. If I'm your ideal donor or supporter, why should I give to you rather than to some other organization or at all? Because I don't have to give. How would you answer this question? For you, for your organization? Again, just take your best shot, a couple of sentences, take the next 30 seconds or so to wrap that up. Consider what you have on your donation page. Consider what maybe you sent out in your most recent email appeal or direct mail appeal, or even if you had a recent conversation with a potential donor. How did you answer this question? How would you answer this question? Now, I want you to hold on to what you've written down, because we're going to come back and you can kind of use a scoring model that we'll look at later to evaluate, how did I do? What ideas are there to make this stronger or improve this? But I want to spend some time breaking down the question, because every part of it is important and is intentional. It starts with just these first couple of words. If I am your ideal supporter, who is I and how are we framing the question? We as fundraisers have to communicate our value proposition and answer this question in the mind of the donor. As you know, you have a lot of insider knowledge about your cause. You have a lot of insider knowledge about your organization and all the different programs that you have to go make an impact on the problem that you're trying to solve. But your donor does not have all the information that you have. They don't have all the context you have. You are giving your career, at least at this stage in your life, you're giving a significant time and investment to go invest in this cause or solving a particular problem. Your donor isn't quite the same level of invested as you, at least not in the same way. So we have to articulate an answer to this question in a way that they're going to understand and identify with. We don't want to use organizational centric language. We want to use donor-focused language. It's going to help them see the work that they can do, the impact that they can make with their gift. But who are we actually talking to? We're not just talking about the entire, or we're not just talking about we're like trying to reach the entire world or the entire globe. We're talking about your ideal donor. So as you're crafting messaging, we're not trying to be super broad reaching and write something that every person on planet Earth can identify with. We want to keep our ideal donor in mind as we write copy. What are their core concerns? What are they really going to lean into? What's going to inspire them to say yes to the next step and ultimately give? Number two, if I'm your ideal supporter, why should I give? The value proposition is the ultimate conclusion that's drawn in somebody's brain, after they've given. It's really an answer to the why question, not just what are they giving to, when are they going to give their gift, when is the money going to be used, or how is it going to be put into action. Those things are critical and kind of part of it all, but we have to answer the why question, not just the what, when, and the how. If I donate to your organization or to some other organization, and a week later, a family member or a friend asks me, hey, Nathan, why'd you give to this organization? I'm probably not going to go rattle off like a bunch of efficiency metrics or something, which is oftentimes what we lean into on donation pages, like what percentage is going to go towards the cause and that sort of stuff. But that doesn't answer the why question. If I'm going to tell you why I gave to someone, I'm going to talk more about the impact that I'm able to have by giving and the root problem in the world that I want to see solved, not just efficiency metrics and data. So we have to paint this picture in someone's mind as to why they would give, not just what they're giving to, when they're giving, or how they're giving. Number three, moving on in the question, why should I give to you rather than to some other organization? It's easy for us to sort of pretend that there's no competition in our space, because theoretically we're all working towards good causes, trying to increase generosity to go make an impact in the world. Now, obviously, there's differences in ideologies, and what you might think is important is different than what others might think is important, but we're all trying to make the world a better place in some way, shape, or form. So it's easy to pretend that we're not competing. But there's limited amounts of money that people can actually give. And so as a donor, I'm going to go compare your organization to some other organization that's doing similar work. Why should I give to your food pantry rather than this food pantry? Why should I give to this ministry rather than this ministry? Why should I give to this organization trying to solve world hunger rather than this one that's doing similar work? I'm going to compare and contrast. So we have to be able to set ourselves apart from other similar organizations. What's your unique approach? What's your unique impact? What unique impact can a donor have when I give through you? And at the same time, donors are also going to compare you to other organizations that are totally different than yours. If I've got a limited capacity to give, I want to give in a place where I know that my gift can be put to use to make an impact on something I care about. So I may really care about trying to impact the hunger crisis. I also may really care about trying to solve something like climate change. Two different, maybe related, but two different causes with two different approaches to solving a problem. But if I've got limited capacity to give, I want to know that my money is at least invested in something where I know is going to make a real impact. So we have to be exclusive and differentiate ourselves with our unique approach to solving the problem. So that's number 3. Number 4, this final little sort of parenthetical statement, sort of the add-on here, is really important because no one has to give to you. We can't assume that just because someone shows up on our website that they're going to give. It's just a matter of how much or when. No one has to give. We have to inspire action against the distractions of life. If someone's at work and you've interrupted them with an ad or an email, why should I give to you now rather than go back to my inbox and try to get to inbox 0 or keep working on some project? If I'm at home, why should I spend time either on my phone or on my laptop or on my tablet, whatever, figuring out, do I want to give to you and spending time filling out, credit card fields and all that, rather than, go play with my kids or go get, dinner started for my family. We have to inspire action against all the other distractions. And then finally, your value proposition doesn't just occur at the time of giving. Again, as we said, there's all these different steps along the journey where someone has to say yes to opening your email, to clicking, to reading, to getting out their wallet, looking at their credit card, typing in their info, and actually clicking the final button, the point of no return, to say, yes, I want to give this money to you. There are so many steps along the way, and value proposition is required at every single step to get someone to say yes, not just at the final moment of giving. So what can you do? We can talk about a lot of theory and all of this stuff, but what can you actually do to make a difference and improve the strength of your value proposition and lead to greater giving? Well, this is why you're here, is to look at these 4 key elements of an effective value proposition. We're going to look at an experiment for each one of these. We're going to follow a similar track throughout. We're going to look at a bunch of different Caring Bridge examples. And just for some context, we're all sort of on the same wavelength, on the same path here. Caring Bridge is an awesome organization. They do incredible work. Essentially, if you haven't used them yourself or heard of them, they allow you to create these basically like journal pages when you're going through some sort of health crisis or health journey, either you or a family member. Because if you're in the hospital or a family member's in the hospital going through something, it's really hard to keep everybody informed unless you've got like massive group text messages and all that stuff. Caring Bridge is a great place where you can create these journals. You can post updates about what's going on. Family and friends can join in and give you encouragement and post comments and keep up to date. So they do some great work to help encourage people along that journey, help people stay positive. So we're going to follow a few different experiments through that lens. So stick with me as we go. Number 1, the first element that I want you to consider as you are working on your value proposition is appeal. Appeal answers this question of how badly do I, the ideal donor, want this? So whether it's signing up for something like a newsletter or it's actually giving a gift, how badly do I want to get this newsletter or this free offer or this course? Or how badly do I want to make this type of an impact? We have to answer this question with our copy, with our design, with the whole experience. And here's one I love this experiment. It's a great experiment articulating just how important it is to test the different ideas that we have around appeal and value proposition. So here's where they started. This is part of their it's like a little call out on the page that leads towards a donation page afterwards after you click the button. It says this: honor Cade and Colin with a donation to CaringBridge. You make Cade and Colin's website possible. Call to action button says donate. This is the control. This is where they started. But they wondered, does it make a difference if we just sort of flip the order of the elements? So all the same, core elements are intact here. They're just flipped on their head. It now says Cade's CaringBridge site is supported by generous donors like you. Make a donation to CaringBridge in honor of Cade. And then you have the donate call to action. So essentially saying the same thing, just kind of reordering the elements. But they also wondered, what if we focus the copy more on the impact that the site has and the donation can have on keeping the sites running? So now it says help Cade stay connected to family and friends. Make a donation to CaringBridge to keep Cade's site up and running. So now you have a bit more of a tangible idea as to what does the gift do? Where does the gift go? How is it actually making an impact? It's going to basically keep the servers running, more or less. It's going to keep it up and running for Cade and for his family and friends. But they wondered, is that enough? Can we lean a bit more into the emotional side of things? And so what they wrote is this: show your love and support for Cade. Make a donation to CaringBridge to keep Cade's site up and running. So you've got a lot of the same sort of core elements that you see before about keeping the site up and running, keeping the servers going, but also leaning into the real why behind it. Showing love and support for Cade is the real why behind the gift. And so what they saw as they ran this experiment, all 4 of these versions, splitting the traffic evenly across each one, was that treatment number 1 led to a 6% increase in giving, in total donations. However, and this gets a little bit nuanced, gets into A/B testing, it didn't reach the level of confidence that we would want to see to be assured that we're going to see this result continually over time. So saw a lift, but not quite at the level of confidence that we want. Treatment 2, similar thing, 1% increase in donations, but not at the level of confidence that we want to be sure it's going to lead to greater giving down the road. But treatment 3 led to a 67% increase in donations. Again, that's the total number of people actually giving as a result of this treatment, which is really remarkable, leaning into this emotional side of things, strengthening the appeal, the core, why would I give? What's the true impact on the person that I can make, led to this tremendous increase in giving. What's just as fascinating and just as interesting to me is that there was no difference in clicks across any of these treatments. There's no significant change in traffic of the number of people clicking the button to go to the donation page. But what treatment 3 did was it actually aligned with the motivation of the donor better so that they were more inclined to say yes at the next step. So we have to keep that in mind. What you do way down here at the bottom of the mountain, how you get someone to say yes, might actually impact their likelihood of saying yes at the top as well. The value proposition, the answer to this why question, is not just isolated to a specific step, just to an email, just to a page. It's a holistic experience that someone has with you and how much they trust you and how much they want to make an impact through you. So we've got to keep that in mind. Let's look at number 2. This is exclusivity. Exclusivity answers this question of, can I get this somewhere else? Or can I get this maybe anywhere else? We want someone to think and to say, I can only make this impact through you. What we don't want is someone to read the copy on your page or in your direct mail appeal or listening to you in a conversation and say, oh, that's great, but I can go do that over here and at this organization. I can give hope basically anywhere I donate. How do you set yourself apart? How do you make sure someone says, I can only make this impact through you? Let's look at another CaringBridge example. This is their tribute donation widget. And here's how it started. You see the copy on the little widget here. This is during the year-end season this was being run. The name of their campaign is this wonderful, it's just called Wonderful, make a wonderful tribute donation. The copy says, honor Deborah with the tribute donation, help CaringBridge connect people with love and support when they need it most. It's not bad. Seems like a decent appeal. You've got this opportunity to add your little message and then say, I'll help now. That takes you to a donation page in the next step. But they tested something a little bit different that actually leaned into exclusivity. So in the headlines alone, let's compare and contrast. Version A saying, make a wonderful tribute donation. I can pretty much make a wonderful donation and basically a tribute donation anywhere I want to. maybe not everywhere, but 95% of organizations, but I can only honor Deborah with my tribute donation here. You feel the difference? There's a significant difference in the exclusivity there, even in just the headline. And then you dive down into some of the copy, and it's not this big, fundamental change. There's just some small tweaks. Version A says, help CaringBridge connect people with love and support. Now, if I could see all of your faces, I'd ask you to all raise your hands if you can say that when someone gives to your organization, they can connect people with love and support. And I think probably 80% at least of hands would go up. You can even sound off in the chat. Can you connect people with love and support when someone gives to your organization? Probably in some way, shape, or form, the answer is yes. But version B, make a gift to CaringBridge in honor of Deborah to make sure that the website that brings them joy on a daily basis stays up and running this holiday season. Where else can you make that impact? You can only do that here. You can only do that here through CaringBridge. There's nuanced differences in the copy, but it makes a tremendous difference in answering this question of, can I make this impact somewhere else, or can I only make it here? It leans into exclusivity, and it led to an 86% increase in donations. Number 3, clarity. Clarity answers this question of, how quickly and how easily do I understand the words on the page? And this isn't just about copy. It's not just about what you write. It's also about how you present it in the layout and in the design. All these things work together to craft a holistic picture that's leading someone to an ultimate conclusion or to a next step. We have to be clear. Oftentimes we say, we don't want to lean into persuasive copy necessarily. We want to first lean into clarity. Oftentimes clarity can trump even the most creative copywriting. Let's look at an example. And this isn't about donations necessarily in this case. This is about how do you just get more people to say yes to setting up one of these websites? That's a goal that CaringBridge has. Here's version A. If you go to this site on your mobile device, it would look something like this when this experiment was run. You've got copy at the top, share, connect, and rally support. You've got this visit a friend's website search bar. Down below, you've got a start a site button. And then down below that, you've got some more descriptions of some of the next steps that you can take. A lot of things are going on in the control, a lot of busyness. Hard to know exactly what's the one thing you want me to do. There's a lot going on. Version B took a different approach, both with the copy and with the design, to simplify what someone sees on the page and lead them clearly towards the next step. It says personal protected sites for every health journey, free personal site to share health updates and rally support, create a site. And you've got this secondary call to action in case someone's searching for a site. And if that's their intention, they're going to find it. But now the create a site button really stands out as that's the primary thing to do right here and right now. And then they tested a different iteration of this as well with more descriptive copy, wondering if adding some more copy would actually improve that experience as well, just inside the new version of the design. And here's what they saw. Version C, in this case, led to a 10% increase in sites being created, but again, not at the level of confidence we're looking for. But this short text version with this new design layout led to a 31% increase in people creating sites because it leaned into clarity. And you can see just right there on your screen, it's so much clearer what they actually are expecting someone to do on the page and asking someone to do on the page. There's one primary call to action, create a site, and you clearly see it right when you come to the page. Leaning into clarity led to this increase in people saying yes to creating a site. We want to do that with our own copy, with our own design, even on our donation pages. And then fourth, credibility. Credibility answers this question of, do I believe what you're claiming is true? And I'm going to go ahead and assume that everything that you're putting on your donation page is true. Everything that you're putting in your emails and in your direct mail and in your advertising and all that stuff, I'm going to go ahead and believe that everything that you're saying is true. It should be. But the question is, does your donor believe what you're saying is true? It might be true what you're saying, but are you providing enough evidentials or data or supporting evidence for someone to really say, yes, I get it, I believe it, I believe what you're saying is true? You might be making claims that sound outlandish if not supported with the right data or the right stories to build trust, because it's not just about using data to boost credibility, but how do we also build more trust with our donor? So they trust you with their gift. Do I believe what you're claiming is true? And do I trust you? That's what we're going for. Now, I said we'd dive deeper into this email that we looked at the very beginning of our time. And we're going to do that now. So again, if you remember, we've got version A, which is this sort of succinct email appeal. Version B is this long form email appeal. Both of them have the same paragraph that talks about what your gift can do and a little bit of the why. I'll read it out loud for you. CaringBridge is free to use, but it's not free to run. We have a team of developers, quality assurance technicians, business analysts, and coordinators who make sure anyone in need can create new free sites while maintaining the hundreds of thousands of existing sites for as long as they're needed. The need for connection and coordination through CaringBridge has only grown over the last few years. This is really the core of the appeal and why someone should give. And it's not bad. It's descriptive. I've got a clear understanding of where my gift is going and what some of the need is. This isn't bad. However, there's always room to improve. There's always room for optimization. And so they tested a different approach that leans a bit more into credibility by sharing someone's actual story of how they've been impacted by this work, trying to build trust through story and narrative. So Kelly, who's the writer of this email, says all the same kind of stuff at the very beginning. And then she says, let me tell you what your gift can do. And then it's not really focused just on the what, but it's using a story to help someone understand the why. Let me tell you what your gift will do. Courtney was diagnosed with breast cancer at 37. Her family stepped up to take care of the present, the needs in the present. Courtney says this, I knew my kids were always somewhere safe with someone who loved them. She decided to face her health journey with optimism, and she shared that attitude with everyone who read her CaringBridge journal. She says, I tend to think that people who don't have support or the ability to stay positive and remain hopeful have a harder time making it through. And so they're using this story from Courtney, who's used CaringBridge as a tool during her health journey to be encouraged by family and friends and to stay positive in order to show the real impact that a gift can make. Not just, functionally, tangibly, what's it going to do, but why is it important? Why does it matter? They're using this story to increase someone's trust by not just talking about themselves, but having someone else come in to talk about how they've been impacted by CaringBridge. They're boosting trust by using story and a story of impact. And what this led to, again, was a 42% increase in donations. So again, we have to lean into credibility, not just say the right things about what's true about our organization and what impact someone can make, but make sure we bring in the right stories, the right reviews or testimonials or different data to make sure that someone believes what you're saying is really true and trusts you with their donation. With the time we have remaining, which is just about 14 minutes, it looks like, I want to give you a quick little scoring model so you can score your own value proposition based on these 4 different elements. And it's super easy. It's super easy, and we'll go through it real quick here and then give you a chance to practice. So related to appeal, again, this is answering the question, how badly do I want this? I just want you to score your own value proposition using this red light, yellow light, green light type of model. We've been playing red light, green light, at night to get our kids to go to bed and have like some fun in the process. And so we're going to play it here too. But pull out what you wrote down earlier, those couple sentences answering the value proposition question, and just give it a quick score as we're going through. How badly does your ideal donor want to make that type of an impact? If there's no interest at all, if they're over here, they want to solve this problem and you're trying to solve this problem, there's probably no interest at all. Or are you really aligned where your donor is looking at your copy saying, absolutely, this is why I exist. This is the problem I want to see solved in the world most. Then there's high interest. Secondly, exclusivity. Where else can I get this? If you read your copy through the lens of your ideal donor, how would you answer this question of where else can I make this impact? Can I make this anywhere else? Or can I only make this impact here and through you? Clarity. How well do I understand it? Are you using a bunch of jargon and buzzwords and things like that that don't lend themselves towards a clear understanding? Or is it crystal clear of where my gift is going to go, what it's going to do, what kind of impact it's going to make, and why it's important? And then finally, credibility. How much do I believe you? How much do I trust you? Is it just hard to believe the claims you're making because they seem maybe outlandish because you're doing such great work? Or is it easy to believe because they're supported with evidentials and story and things like that? So just use this as a quick scoring model as you evaluate your value proposition anywhere, on a donation page, in an ad on your homepage, maybe in an email, wherever you're trying to get someone to say yes towards a next step. You can use this as a quick little guide to give you some new ideas as to how could I make this stronger or improve this. I want you to put this to work here for the next couple of minutes. So I'm going to show you an example. And just sort of a caveat here, the example we're looking at, this organization is actively testing. It's not our goal to go tear up some donation page and say, hey, this is garbage because it doesn't hit on these 4 key questions. The goal here is to use these tools as a lens to generate some new ideas. So I just want to give you some time to practice with the tools. The tools don't give you the answers. You have to go test them and see what actually works, but they're going to give you ideas and hypotheses that you can go test. So here's a donation page for our friends at Save the Children. It says, save a life, donate today. Vulnerable children need you more than ever. And right now, children are living through a global pandemic against the backdrop of hunger, conflict, natural disaster. Your gift today can help make change that protects the lives of children, families, and their communities. $50 can provide enough food to keep 3 children from going hungry for a month. $150 can wrap 30 warm, cozy blankets around children affected by conflict, and $300 can provide 150 face masks to refugee health workers on the front lines. Join us today and make change for children. Now, I want you to tell me, get your fingers on the keyboard in your chat. I want you to let me know, red light, yellow light, green light, or you could say 1, 2, 3. How badly would the ideal donor want to give to this? What do you think? Jump in the chat, let me know, red, yellow, or green. I'll give you a chance to answer, and then I'll share my own thoughts here as well. Becca Joe says green, Kelly says green, Joyce says yellow, Caitlin says yellow, John's a green, Brett's a yellow, Noel's a yellow. I'm probably at yellow here as well. And here's why. If I care about children, there's pretty decent appeal here, and I do care about children. More specifics on the scope of the need might actually make this stronger. Now, again, I'm not saying if you just add some details on the scope is going to magically lead to more donations. You've got to test it to really know. But using this tool as a lens to get some new ideas, I'd probably say, yeah, there might be some benefit to adding some more copy and language around what's really the scope of the problem. I get a hint of that, but they're not going like really out of their way to talk about, how great is the need right now. Maybe there's a story or a quote that could help increase the appeal, not just from the sake of credibility, but for the sake of understanding, the why behind the appeal, what is really the meaningful difference that a gift could make. So those couple of things make me think that there might be some room for improvement here, but you know what? There's always going to be room for improvement. So I'll give it a yellow, but we can agree to disagree as well. Let's look at exclusivity. As you think about this copy, as we read it out loud, where else can someone make this type of an impact? Would you say this is a red, yellow, or green? Red being, I can make this impact anywhere. Green being, I can only make this impact here. What do you think? Now, I'm probably in the minority here because I've given this same presentation probably 4 or 5 times this month. And most people are saying what you're saying, which is red, which is great. You know what? You've got ideas that you should put to the test here too. Most people are saying red around exclusivity. I kind of said like I'm teetering between yellow and green here because there are a lot of organizations that serve children, but what I'm drawn to is sort of the gift handles. They start to give me a decent idea as to how my gift is actually going to be used, which maybe doesn't do a direct compare contrast of like their approach versus someone else's approach, but it lets me know at least that they have an approach as to how they're going to go solve the problem, which starts to sort of beget exclusivity, in my opinion. But that's the point of these tools. It's not to give one person the authority to say, this is the right value proposition, this is not, but to give you the lens to say, how can we improve this? So lots of opportunity, it sounds like, from your view to go and improve exclusivity, which is great. Let's test it. How about clarity? How well do you understand what they're trying to communicate and what you would be giving to? Is this a red, a yellow, or a green? Brett says green, Kelly says green, Joyce says yellow, Noel says green. I would put this in green as well. And again, I'm going back to the gift handles because they're giving me an abundance of clarity as to when I give this much, what kind of stuff is it going to do. I'm seeing the different types of things that they're going to be providing with different levels of gift. I'm showing how far my gift can actually go. So I feel like I've got a pretty solid handle on clarity for this donation page in this context. And then finally, credibility. Red, yellow, or green. How much do I believe you? How much do I trust you? How would you score this on credibility? Red, yellow, or green? Again, let me know in the chat. Kelly says yellow on credibility. Caitlin says green. I'd probably go yellow on credibility here. The gift descriptions are somewhat helpful in understanding credibility because I know they have specific plans, but I don't really feel like they're going out of their way to boost credibility with either some other stories of impact or more information to just help me, affirm and believe that, yeah, you can make a real impact. I don't feel like they're going out of their way to boost it. So that's why I'm kind of giving it a yellow. But you see how you and I and all of us here, on this webinar today have different viewpoints into what could work to increase results. And if you go and you take this tool inside of your organization and you go through this activity that I'd like you to do, you're going to have a lot of different perspectives from similar people in your own organization about what could work, what might not work. And so I want to equip you with some additional tools to kind of have this conversation about what's going to lead to greater giving, and then go put it to the test. So the activity I'd like you to do later today, this afternoon, if you would, definitely by the end of the week, is pull up your main donation page. And I want you to ask this core question. If I'm your ideal donor, why would I give to you rather than some other organization or at all? And I want you to use this scoring model on your main donation page to evaluate the appeal, clarity, exclusivity, and credibility. And you're going to come up with probably 5 or 6 different ideas as to how you could improve the copy. And then don't just assume that your best idea works. You've got to go test it. And we've only really just scratched the surface on the possibilities of how you go grow and develop your value proposition to lead to greater giving. If you haven't jumped into this course yet, you can go to the URL on your screen, scan that QR code to get 30 days access to an in-depth course all about value proposition. Because we've talked about a lot in the past 45 minutes or so. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's a whole lot more to dive into. We've talked mostly about how to start to evaluate and score a value proposition. What's next is starting to develop your primary value proposition for your organization. Kind of this wrap-up, overarching value proposition statement that helps someone kind of align with the core problem you're trying to solve. But then beyond that, we need to go start to develop claims of value and see what best ideas we have internally that we could go put in front of our donors, get their feedback, and see what could actually work to grow giving. And then beyond that, we can't just take your best value proposition ideas and copy and paste it everywhere across your website and all your different channels. We've got to contextualize it for different people, different audiences that know differing amounts about your organization. There's different people that are climbing different mountains because there's not just a one-time donation goal. You may be trying to move someone to become a recurring donor. That's a different way of framing your value proposition. You may be trying to have a major gift type of conversation. So there's all these different mountains with different goals. And within that, there's not just one path to the top. There might be multiple paths to get there. And on those different paths, there's different obstacles along the way. And so we have to learn to contextualize our messaging for each of these different audiences with different goals, with different paths, with different obstacles. And so that's what you're going to find throughout the course. So again, if you'd go to nextafter.com/free-VP course or go scan that QR code, you can get 30 days of free access to the whole course and dive deep. Now, if you've got questions, I think we have a little bit of time for them, so feel free to add those into the Q&A if you haven't yet. And then just one more friendly reminder as well. If you want to come to NEO Summit, and I would love to meet you in person there, you can go to niosummit.com to learn more. And then you can save $600 on your tickets using the code SUPEREARLYBIRD, but you've got to use it before tomorrow at midnight. So talk to your team, talk to whoever you need to talk to, get the budget secured, and go get your ticket before tomorrow night. Riley says, do it. And I agree. Becca says, come to NEO. And I Wholeheartedly agree. I'd love to see you there. I'm going to pull up the Q&A panel, and then we've got technically like 2 minutes left until 2 o'clock. But if there's lots of questions, we can stick around for a few extra minutes and get them answered. So I see one question in here from John. If you've got additional questions, again, open the Q&A panel, add them in there, and we'll try to get them answered. But here's John's question. I've been thinking about using A/B testing. And I understand the concept, but I'm not sure how to implement A/B testing in my context. Well, John, I don't know your context exactly. One thing I can point you to, and maybe we can send this out later, we've got several different resources on A/B testing, everything from a quick blog and a PDF guide as to kind of the bare essentials of getting started, as well as an in-depth course about how do you go generate new hypotheses and figure out where you should be testing. Because if you've got low volume, if you've got small email files or low traffic, it can be really hard to test and get valid results. You're going to end up with a lot of those like yellow arrows we saw today of like, we ran something, we saw a change, but we're not sure if it's going to work. We're not sure if it's not at the level of confidence that we want. So that course will give you some different tools depending on where you're at to find the right places to start testing so you can get valid results. And then over time, in theory, if you've got small volume, small email file, if you're finding some of the right places to start, you can get some learnings, you can apply those across the board. You're growing over time, and as you improve results, you'll have greater volume to run different tests and experiments to learn even more. So John, would love to follow up if you've got further questions there. We'll try to send out some resources around A/B testing. If you Google nonprofit A/B testing, we should be at the top with a quick little blog guide as to how to get started there. And Riley's got it posted in the chat. She's on it. Thank you so much, Riley. Well, wonderful. I don't see anything else in the Q&A. If you've got further questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. I'm kind of buried in my inbox at the moment, but I'll do my best. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you've gotten some good takeaways and some next steps to go work on your value proposition and answering this core question for your donors. Thank you again. We're always rooting for you here at Next After. We wish you the best, and we'll see you on the next webinar. So take care. Thank you so much. I see Becca Joe, go Mavs. I'm right there with you. My Bulls are out, but Mavs, right there with you.